So I don't know if you saw the NBC forum last night with the presidential candidates. An NBC forum, that involves a TV morning show host who doesn't do his research, asking questions of a TV reality star who also doesn't do his research. So let's get to some of the... I'm here, by the way, Michael Brooks, Steph Zamorano, Hank Thompson. Now, here's one of the first questions. There were no specifics. Like, for instance, let's say... if Matt Lauer would have said, hey, Trump, Hamas, Hezbollah, hemorrhoids, what's the difference?
I will tell you.
I'm going to guess Matt Lauer doesn't know the difference himself.
Yeah, he would say, I will tell you, we need to get tough on all of them. I mean, it's true. It's really true. I will tell you this.
He will.
That's my new response to everything now. I will tell you and obfuscate.
So now my problem with Matt Lauer was not only that he didn't ask follow-up questions or push back when someone lied. No, that would be it. That would be what he did wrong. He didn't ask follow-up questions, and he didn't push back when someone lied. And he didn't even know when Trump gave an incorrect, like when there was a soldier said, hey, 20 veterans commit suicide every day, and Trump said, actually, it's 22. No, actually, it's 20. And so Trump didn't know it, and Matt Lauer didn't know that Trump was wrong. So, well, here's the thing everybody's pointing to when they were talking about the Iraq War. So here we go.
I have good judgment. I know what's going on. I've called so many of the shots. And I happened to hear Hillary Clinton say that I was not against the war in Iraq. I was totally against the war in Iraq. You can look at Esquire magazine from '04. You can look at before that. And I was against the war in Iraq.
Just so you know, '04, year after the war started.
That's awesome. And also, like, you could look before that.
You could.
Could do a lot of things.
We could look before that. Believe me, if you had something before that, you would tell us. You could even look before. I haven't bothered. And Matt Lauer doesn't go, so I mean, you haven't bothered to look? But if what you had, because that's a year after the war started, that you said that in that Esquire. So anyway, there we go.
As I said, it's going to totally destabilize the Middle East, which it has. It has absolutely been a disastrous war. And by the way, perhaps almost as bad was the way Barack Obama got out. That was a disaster.
People talk about you and Commander...
That's it. That's it. He just let him say all that crap, and then he didn't say, you know what, people, okay, all right. You're supposed to... You tell me, Michael, what would you have said in that situation? Would you have said anything?
I would have stared blankly ahead and let him keep bulldozing his way over me. Obviously, Jimmy, I'm trying to build my career here. What's the matter with you? But there was a Howard Stern interview from 2002, right before the invasion. Stern's like, so what do you think about Iraq? Should we go in? And what's great about it, if you go back and listen, I don't remember exactly what they were talking about, but they were talking about either girls or a new building, you know? Something that Trump would prefer to talk about. And he's kind of like, yeah, I guess we got to go in. Anyways, the new floor plans.
Yeah.
I mean, like, not only did he support it as like an afterthought.
Yeah, like, oh, yeah.
Like, yeah, there's more important things to talk about. Like, I've actually brought in some new Slovenian sex slaves. So I'd like to get back to that. But I mean, sure, whatever, we can invade Iraq.
Yeah, he said, yeah, he didn't like, it wasn't like a big deal for him. He was like, yeah, we should have won. He goes, I wish we'd have did it right the first time. That was the second part of that quote. Yeah. What should we have done the first time? What, like, created this quagmire? Anyway. So here, now we were all talking about how Matt Lauer should have pushed back on that. MSNBC, they asked the same question. And let's listen to by the way, so Matt Lauer totally gave Trump a free pass because Trump has received 5 deferments from the military, 15 deferments from Matt Lauer last night.
And which, if you saw that clip of Donald Trump at the black church in Detroit last week, I totally believe those physical deferments. Dude is uncoordinated.
Oh, I know. I did not see. Was he trying to dance?
Oh, yes, he was.
I did not see it. Oh, I know.
Well, not everybody can dance like President Bush.
He was doing a dance move called the Bone Spur.
Yes. So here is the last night on MSNBC. This question comes up.
Chris Mathews, how do you debate a presidential candidate who took the position we absolutely should go into Libya, go in hard, and now says he never did? No one's had to really deal with that in the presidential debate.
Well, you have to call the guy a liar when you do that. That's the problem. That's a difficult thing for Matt Lauer to do because it sounds like an opinion, and you're not supposed to have an opinions in this business.
Okay. Facts aren't opinions. That's why they're called facts. See, there you go. So,
Morning show hosts shouldn't have opinions.
what's that, Steph?
I'm just saying morning show hosts shouldn't have opinions.
So what Matthews is saying, I agree with you, and Matthews is afraid if he says Trump is lying, he'll be considered biased, and he'd much rather be considered full of shit. That's what passes. Network journalists, because let's be honest, right? Network journalists can't call politicians liars because that's crossing a line into no man's land where you're telling the truth, exposing corruption, and changing things for the better. We can't have that. This is not stunning to you, Michael, that Chris Mathews would say, if you point out when a politician is blatantly lying, everyone else in the room knows he's lying, but if you point it out, you might be considered biased. That's all mainstream news journalists. You know how the right wing says, oh, they're liberal, they're liberal, they're liberal? Well, that actually has an effect that actually wins. That's called working the refs. So now guys like Chris Mathews, who have corporate bosses, their biggest fear is that they'll be called a liberal. That's their biggest fear. Chris Mathews has described himself as center-right. Their biggest fear is that they'll be considered to have liberal bias.
Well,
right?
Yeah, no, I think that's true. I mean, as I always say with MSNBC, available. But besides that, I think, though, it's also just the etiquette over anything else, which is unbelievable. Like this notion that being rude to somebody is like this sort of transcendent thing that's a bigger deal than, and also the inverse. I mean, it kind of does amaze me, particularly with Trump, that there isn't the flip of like, wait a second, like you just looking at me in the face and fucking lying to me, not even in like the traditional political way where you try to kind of massage it and bullshit and give me a frame. That's like just kind of basically insulting at a certain point.
Well, that's what I'm saying. When someone lies to me like that and someone lies to me in front of people, that's insulting to me. Like, you think I'm dumb enough that you can get it past me? You're going to get it past all these people? That is insulting because he does think you're too dumb. And guess what? He was right. Matt Lauer was going to let him get away with it. And he did let him get away with it.
He was that dumb. It's true.
Chris Mathews, sounds like an opinion when you do that. Yeah, when the media is so terrified of truth because what it might sound like, that explains why we have Donald Trump. Calling out lies is the basics of being a journalist. Otherwise, we could just get Ryan Seacrest to host the goddamn town hall. Why would you need? He's good on camera, and he knows how to keep the clock, and he's affable and personable. Why don't you get Ryan Seacrest? Why? Why don't you get Ryan Seacrest? Because you're supposed to have a newsman who knows something, so when someone starts spewing lies to your viewing audience, you get to correct it and go, no, this is a news show. Those aren't facts. That's the whole point of a news show, right? Otherwise, we would turn on a soap opera where everything's made up and nobody knows what's right or wrong. But Chris Mathews is saying, he went on to say that how does he do that with still look neutral? Well, here's the thing. You're not supposed to be neutral. Neutral means everybody's equal. Everybody's opinion means the same, has the same weight. Nobody's full of shit and nobody's lying. I'm neutral to the facts. That's not what journalism is. Journalism is you're objective. And you can be objective and say, hey, that guy's lying. Hey, that's not a fact, and he's full of it. You can do all those things and be objective. But what corporate journalists have done is they replaced objectivity with neutrality because they no longer work for news organizations. They work for the corporations. News organizations are supposed to be investigating and exposing. So when you work for the criminals you're supposed to be exposing, you take objectivity and throw it out the window and you replace it with neutrality and you just keep saying it and nobody ever questions you on it. And that's what's happening. So I'll give you one more thing. Here's what the New York Times had to say about Chris Mathews. And how do you call somebody a liar without it looking like you're partisan? Here's what the New York Times said. Why would a journalist be allergic to verifying the truth? On an MSNBC panel, Chris Mathews guessed that Matt Lauer didn't correct Mr. Trump on Iraq because of perceptions. You have to call the guy a liar when you do that, he said. That's a difficult thing for Matt Lauer to do because it sounds like an opinion. but it's not an opinion. When a candidate says he didn't say something that he did, that's a matter of fact. Here's what an opinion looks like. It's a travesty to be steamrolled by a candidate because you're worried that doing your job will look bad. That's an opinion. We can debate that.
That's a lot of shade by New York Times standards.
A lot of shade.
That's impressive.
So there you go, Chris Mathews. It gets worse from there.